Hello and welcome. I am Christopher John Bjerknes. It is May 27th, 2022. Today I am going to be describing the primary beliefs of Christian Kabbalah, where they came from, what purpose they're intended to serve, how they relate to Judaism and the oral traditions of Judaism, especially Kabbalah, and how these belief systems are syncretic and synergistic, how they promote one another, how they are necessary to one another. And I'm going to get into the very interesting subject of the evil pentagram and the good pentagram, the evil serpent and the good serpent, and the tetragrammaton and pentagrammaton. These beliefs were all fused together by the Christian theologians Raymond Lull, Giovanni Pica della Mirandola, and Johann Reuchlin, who were each monumental figures in both Christianity and Kabbalah. They influenced the Kabbalists as much as they were influenced by the Kabbalists. In this slide, you can see a Christian image of Jesus on the cross next to a man and a woman. And I have overlaid and superimposed that image on a Christian image of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is known in the Zohar as the tree of death, as opposed to the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, together with Adam and Eve. You can see that the serpent has tempted Adam and Eve to consume the fruit of the tree of knowledge and good and evil. And Jesus is tempting the man and woman to consume the gnosis, the knowledge of good and evil that he is providing. That was the original Gnostic interpretation of who Jesus was. He was the serpent on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In Gnosticism, there were two serpents. There was the evil serpent and the good serpent. The evil serpent was known as the serpent of darkness. The good serpent is known as the serpent of light. Kabbalah took from Gnosticism this belief in the two serpents. This all relates to the pentagram, which has 5 points to it. In Kabbalah, the fifth emanation from the original emanation of Adam Kadmon in Keter proceeded from Keter to Chokhmah, Binah, through Deat to Chesed, and then the fifth emanation is Gevurah. Gevurah is the seat of Satan, known in Kabbalah by his male aspect, Samael, and by his female aspect, Lilith. Satan is an androgyne, just as Christ in Gnosticism is an androgyne composed of the male aspect, Jesus, who is gnosis or knowledge, which relates to Da'at on the Kabbalistic tree of life. His female aspect is Sophia, who is wisdom. Wisdom on the Kabbalistic tree of life is Chokhmah. And then in the Gnostic system, there's something called epinoia, which means insight, which relates to Binah, which is understanding on the Kabbalistic tree of life. Here we see the Gnostic Abraxas, who is the meta-god of Gnosticism. His legs are composed of the two serpents, the twin serpent, the serpent of darkness and the serpent of light. In Christian Kabbalah, those came to be represented by two pentagrams. One pentagram pointing upwards is the pentagram of the pentagrammaton, as opposed to the Tetragrammaton of Kabbalah. That pentagram has the letters of the Pentagrammaton, the name for Jesus that the Christian Kabbalists gave of Yeshua. And it is spelled in Hebrew, Yod He Shin Vav He. And it's important to understand that Hebrew is written from right to left. And what the Christian Kabbalists did was they took the name Yahweh, the name of God, and added a middle letter, Shin, to that name. The original name of God only had 4 Hebrew letters, which formed the Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He. The Christian Kabbalists put a Shin in the middle. In Kabbalah, Yahweh is the male aspect of the Godhead, and the female aspect of the Godhead is Shekhinah. Just as Adam and Eve were originally the androgyne Adam, who was then separated into his male aspect Adam and female aspect Eve, the God of Israel was originally an androgyne who then separated into his male aspect Yahweh and female aspect Shekhinah. And that is represented in the androgynous son of the Father Yahweh and Mother Shekinah, Yeshua. So they incorporated both the name Shekinah and Yahweh into one name, Yeshua, of the androgynous son, which was then represented by an upwards pointed pentagram, the pentagrammaton. Again, each point consists of the letters of the name of the androgynous son, Jesus, Yod He Shin Vav He. The Christian Kabbalists also inverted the pentagram to make an evil pentagram, because there is a good serpent and there is a bad serpent in the Garden of Eden. There is the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. Everything in Judaism is dualistic and broken into these 2 pairs. And there are in Kabbalah 2 messiahs, the Messiah son of Joseph, who was Jesus, and the Messiah son of David, who is the serpent of light, the holy serpent. Jesus in Kabbalah is the serpent of darkness. The serpent of darkness in Christian Kabbalah is represented by the pentagram that is inverted, that is pointing downwards. It is also an androgynous pentagram composed of the male aspect of Satan, the serpent of darkness, Samael, and the female aspect of Satan, who is Lilith. That pentagram is composed of the Hebrew letters Lamed, Vav, Yod, Tav, Nun, which together spell Leviathan. And again, Hebrew is read from right to left, and it's important to note that in the Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He, and in the Pentagrammaton, Yod He Shin Vav He, the first 2 letters are Yod He, and they are on the right. That represents Yahweh. The right side is the male side. It is the good side. It is the side of the serpent of light. The left side, separated by the Shin, which is Shekhinah or Shekinah, is Vav He. Vav He is the female aspect, the serpent of darkness, the womb of chaos, and is female. Again, in the Abraxas, you can see the right-hand side is the good serpent of light, and the left-hand side is the evil serpent of darkness. Ultimately, these 2 serpents are one serpent who will be reunited in the Messianic age. The serpent of darkness bears the soul of these twin serpents and the soul of the twin messiahs and the twin trees. That is the soul of chaos, which is called in Kabbalah Yechida. Jesus bears that soul, the Mashiach Yechida, the soul of the Messiah. The Messiah, son of David, is the body or the vessel for that soul. And Jesus had to die so that his soul could leave his body and enter the vessel of the body of Mashiach ben David, the Messiah, son of David, who is represented in Matthew 27 as Jesus Barabbas, who is the Messiah who survives. After Jesus dies, his soul of Mashiach Yechida unites in the vessel of the body of Mashiach ben David, the Messiah, son of David, and the two serpents become one serpent, which is why we see images of the Ouroboros with two tails and two heads. That represents the twin messiahs and the twin serpents. These are common beliefs between Gnosticism, Christian Kabbalah, and the oral tradition of Judaism of Kabbalah. Here again we have Yod-He, Shin, Vav-He of the Christian Kabbalistic pentagram of Adam and Eve, here representing the union of the good serpent in its androgynous form of Adam and Eve. This is the pentagram pointed downwards. It is the evil serpent broken into the two male gendered aspects of Satan. The male aspect is Samael, and the female aspect of Satan is Lilith. The Gnostics were very clear about the idea that Jesus was the serpent on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and provided humankind with the knowledge, the gnosis, that is needed for the soul to escape the corpse of flesh and return to the gods which first emanated the divine spark of the human soul. Kabbalah and Gnosticism complement one another in their opposing views of these twin serpents, the serpent of light and the serpent of darkness. In Gnosticism, Jesus is viewed as the serpent of light. In Kabbalah, Jesus is viewed as the serpent of darkness. Again, let's review. Abraxas is the Gnostic meta-god. His legs are composed of the serpent of darkness on the left and the serpent of light on the right. In Christian Kabbalah, these two serpents are symbolized as an upright pentagram and a downward pointing pentagram. The upward pointing pentagram is composed of the letters of the Pentagrammaton, Yeshua, Yod-He, Shin, Vav-He. The downward pointing pentagram represents the evil serpent, the Leviathan, which in Hebrew is composed of the letters Lamed, Vav, Yod, Tav, Nun. The serpent on the tree of knowledge is known in Kabbalah as a grapevine. The Christians were the first, perhaps, to point out that Jesus is the serpent and that the serpent is a grapevine. The grapevine serpent on the tree of knowledge was not yet ripe when Adam and Eve were tempted by its fruits. These fruits slowly ripen over the 6 days of creation, and ultimately when Mashiach ben Yosef, when Jesus Christ gives up his soul to Messiah, son of David, Mashiach ben David, the fruit will then become ripe and kosher to drink. In the meanwhile, Jesus' blood is the unripe wine of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is the tree of death, until the two trees exchange places at the end of the 6 days of creation, and the tree of death instead becomes the tree of life. in the meanwhile, the Eucharist is the poisonous blood of Christ in the form of unripe wine, which is served up to Christians in the cup of God's wrath. The imagery of the poison eventually becoming the cure when the fruit becomes ripe, and when the soul of the serpents unites in the body of the serpents to become one serpent, and the unity of the good and evil as polar opposites in a synergistic blending of opposites that become one unified force. Jesus is the grapevine of the serpent on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Jesus on the cross is the serpent on the tree of knowledge, which is why his blood forms the Eucharist, which is the serpent's unripe venom. The grapevine initially produced unripe fruit in the Garden of Eden, and Jesus' blood is the extracted snake venom of that fruit, that unripened fruit. Eventually, after the 6 days of creation, that fruit of knowledge will have become ripe, and Jesus' blood will become kosher for Jews to drink. Until that time, it is unkosher and poisonous. And this symbolism is represented in the story of the brazen serpent Nehushtan. Moses was commanded to raise the brazen serpent on the cross. In this case, that cross was an Asherah pole, which again represents the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden. And the serpent Nehushtan is the serpent on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil who tempted Adam and Eve with gnosis, with knowledge. This knowledge becomes the cure when it becomes ripe. And Nehushtan was the cure for the snake bites that the God of Israel imposed upon the Israelites as their punishment for disobeying the God of Israel. So it is important to note that the fruit, though initially unripe, venomous, and poisonous, ultimately becomes ripe, and Jesus Christ will become ripe and kosher to drink when his soul of Yechida Mashiach escapes his dead body and enters the vessel of the body of Mashiach ben David, and then the cup of God's wrath from which Christians consume the Eucharist, the venomous, poisonous blood of the grapes of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, will then become ripe and kosher and good to drink, and the Jews will celebrate it in the vessel of the body of Messiah, son of David. So the two religious systems, Christian Kabbalah, which was originally Gnosticism, and Jewish Kabbalah, the oral tradition of Judaism, are exactly the same and promote the same beliefs for Jews and Gentiles as opposite reflections of one another. These two opposite reflections are the Sitra Yemina, which is the right-hand side of the Israelites, and Shekinah, Yahweh, and Adam Kadmon, who viewed from the Gentile perspective of the Sitra Achra are Lilith, Samael, and Jesus Christ. So the Kabbalistic view is the polar opposite of Christian Kabbalah and Gnosticism. Jesus is the androgynous combination of his mother and father. And we can see this is a pervasive image in Christian iconography. We see Jesus with a man and woman on either side. The gods of Judaism were also androgynous, as were the gods of Gnosticism. Yahweh and Shekinah were once an androgynous godhead in the same way that Adam and Eve were once an androgyne. And the androgyne Adam was created in the androgynous image of Yahweh Shekhinah, who were initially one androgynous being. The Tetragrammaton reflects this androgyny. Yod-He, Vav-He again is read from right to left in Hebrew, and the good male side is Yod-He, and the evil female side of darkness is Vav-He. Evil in Judaism, though, is not conceived of in the same sense that it is in Christianity. Evil is seen as part of God and performs good. In the case of Shekhinah, she is the mother, and she is the earth, and her body forms the womb of chaos. The Father is the light, and the light is semen, and these opposites combine to form creation, and both elements are necessary. And creation is only in balance when the androgynous state of the male and female being combined is restored. So Father Yahweh and Mother Shekhinah must be reunited in the temple, in their bedchamber, where they will make love and then become again the androgynous Godhead. The androgynous Son represents this androgynous unity of the male aspect and the female aspect, combined together like yin and yang in one being, that being the androgynous Son. In the case of Kabbalah, Adam Kadmon. In the case of Christian Kabbalah, Jesus Christ, whose female aspect is Sophia. Just as Adam and Eve were separated into their male and female aspects, Yahweh and Shekhinah were separated, and Yahweh is heaven and Shekhinah is the earth. Since Yahweh and Shekhinah can no longer share their bedchamber in the temple in Jerusalem, they instead lie with the male and female aspects of Satan. Yahweh goes to bed with Lilith, and Shekhinah copulates with Samael. And this is why there are so many catastrophes on earth. And what needs to happen, according to the Kabbalists, is that the earth has to be reunited with the heavens. It has to be raised up from chaos to the light of the heavens. And then Yahweh and Shekhinah will abandon Lilith and Samael and instead sleep with one another and become reunited, balanced, and one androgynous being. The Gnostic cosmology of Father Heaven, Mother Earth, and their androgynous Son, who provides the soul for humanity, is derived from the Greek beliefs. The Greeks believed that there was initially chaos. The primordial chaos existed before anything else existed. It was infinitely particular. It was evil by nature. It was chaotically ephemeral and constantly changing. It had no form, no rationality, and no order. The first god was Gaia, who became Mother Earth, and she became the womb for creation. She gave birth to her son, Uranus. And Uranus became the father, the heavens. And he provided the semen of light, which emanated into the dark womb of Mother Earth to produce her children. But her children then became trapped in the dark underworld of Tartarus, and this was very painful for Gaia. Uranus, Father Heaven, the semen of light, was pressed tightly against Gaia. And this became the androgynous form of the male god Uranus and the female god Gaia. They were initially tightly pressed against one another in the form of an androgyne. But Gaia wanted to free her children from the underworld of Tartarus, both because it was horrible for them to live in darkness and to not see the light, and also because it was terribly painful for her to keep her children in her womb. All of this, of course, derives from the fact that when a woman is pregnant, she then undergoes the birth pangs of birth, and she suffers from painful contractions, and she also suffers the pain of the infant kicking within her womb. Now, this was taken up by Isaac Luria and his belief that the Ein Sof, the meta-god, the parent gods, if you will, had to contract and separate to form a space in which the children of creation could live. And Luria derived this from the Greek conception that Gaia sent her son Kronos with a sickle to castrate Uranus, which drove him off from her so that her children who were trapped in Tartarus could escape into this vacuous space, which was then generated between Gaia and Uranus. And Gaia's children were then free to roam on the earth. And the Olympian gods were then able to establish themselves on Mount Olympus. And humanity had a free space between Mother Earth and Father Heaven in which to live. And this generated the Kabbalistic replication of all of these Greek beliefs. That was the Homeric and Hesiod's view of Greek mythology, which were the commonly believed Greek beliefs. But there was another set of Greek beliefs. Many of the gods had the same names, but they had different attributes, and the history and cosmology of the gods was different among the Orphic Greek mystery religions, which inspired many of the concepts of Judaism, Christianity, Gnosticism, and Kabbalah. This Orphic Greek mystery school also had a mother, father, and androgynous son who bore the male and female aspects of his mother and father. And this is one of the key core dualistic beliefs of Judaism and is intrinsic in the separation of Adam into Adam and Eve. There was initially the goddess Ananka and the god Kronos, and they bore an androgynous son named Phanes Protogonus. Phanes means lightbringer. Protogonus means first begotten. Jesus Christ was called the lightbringer first begotten in the Gospel of John. And Phanes Protogonus is a creator god. Kronos and Ananka gave birth to him in the form of a cosmic egg, so that Phanes, the light of Phanes, would enter into the womb of chaos, which is the serpent wrapped around the cosmic egg. The cosmic egg contains Phanes Protogonus, the lightbringer first begotten, and when the egg hatches, light emanates from it in the form of the Big Bang. The Big Bang theory was derived from this Orphic belief in Phanes Protogonus. You then have the male seminal light entering into the dark womb of chaos, which is represented by the serpent. The two commingle. The opposites together obtain balance and form creation. The light provides the rational principles which give order to the material world of chaos, and provide the spark of the divine soul, which is then imparted into the forms of human beings and other soul-bearing beings in the womb of chaos. The myth of Jesus Christ is based upon this creator god, Phanes Protogonus. He was originally the Logos of Philo Judaeus of Alexandria, who created most of the precepts and tenets of Christianity based upon this Orphic Greek mystery religion of Phanes Protogonus as the creator god, emanated from his parents, Ananka and Kronos, who imparted both their male and female aspects into his androgynous form. The androgynous form is also represented by the fact that there is a serpent coiled about Phanes Protogonus, and Jesus Christ represents that serpent on the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is the cross. In the early Gnostic writings of Eunostus the Blessed, there was a figure called Adam of Light, who then became Adam Kadmon of Kabbalah, which you can see on the right. And that is how this syncretic and synergistic combination of Christianity and Kabbalah came about. First, there was Gnosticism, which adopted these Orphic Greek beliefs in an androgynous son. And then that became the androgynous son, Adam Kadmon of Kabbalah. Note that Phanes has a serpent wrapped about him. That is the serpent of light to the Orphic Greeks. And it was juxtaposed to a malevolent, misanthropic god, Aromanius, in the Mithraic system that the Greek mystery schools also adopted. So we have these twin gods representing the good serpent of light, which is Phanes Protogonus, and the evil serpent of darkness, which is Aromanius. Aromanius is a lion-headed god who became Yaldabaoth in Gnosticism. He is malevolent and misanthropic. He seeks to kill all the other gods and destroy humanity. So he is worshipped out of fear and given sacrifices so that he does no harm to humanity. And in the Gnostic system, Yaldabaoth, who is Yahweh, is worshipped by the Israelites and offered sacrifices because he is a cacodemon like Aromanius. He is the lion-headed god who must be appeased through the illusion of worship and love so that he does no harm to the Israelites, but instead joins with them in battling their enemies. Plato picked up on the Orphic Greek myths and the Orphic, Eleusinian, and Samothracian mystery religions, and he wanted to change them from their anthropomorphic gods into a more metaphysical and scientific cosmological system. And since the parents are inherently androgynous, he created, based on Parmenides' conception, something he called the monad or the one, which is the metagod. This metagod is perfectly rational, it is completely unified, and it contains within it all the ideal forms and the logos, the DNA of the universe, the rational principles, which if they were to enter chaos in an unperverted form, would replicate the one. The one wanted to create the universe, but could not do so without destroying its unity and becoming particular and subdivided, losing some of its divine light, losing some of its rationality, by becoming an admixture of itself with chaos. Chaos is matter at the bottom of the pyramid of the great chain of being. Chaos is the polar opposite of the one. It is infinitely subdivided. It is completely irrational. It is ultimately ephemeral. The one is eternal, and matter and chaos are forever changing. They are completely subdivided into infinite parts. In between the one and matter, the one emanated what Plato called the demiurge. The demiurge is the craftsman. It is the metaphysical equivalent of the religious god Phanes, Protogonus, the light-bringer first begotten, who is androgynous. The demiurge was created by the one to serve as the craftsman, to create his universe within primordial chaos. And the demiurge does this because it is provided with nous, which is a mind. It is provided with logos, which is the set of rational principles, which take the form of logoi spermatikoi, which is the sperm, the semen of light, that is then emanated into the dark womb of chaos to give birth to the children of creation. In order to impart the divine sparks of the soul of the one into its created beings, the demiurge emanated its female aspect, which is the world soul, just as Adam was broken off into his female aspect. Eve, who is the female aspect, Adam being the male aspect, we have the demiurge being divided into its female aspect, the world soul, who then provides all the individual souls of the lower gods, the finite souls of human beings, animals, and plants. The demiurge and the world soul then cross over the great divide, the abyss between the upper realm and the lower realm, and they begin to impart this divine light of the demiurge, of Phanes Protogonus, into the chaos of matter, the nix of night, into the womb of the soul of chaos. And these two opposites combine to form creation, the lower gods, the finite souls, the bodies of human beings, animals, plants, then minerals and matter. And as all of these things are formed through the logoi spermatikoi, which gives order to chaos and forms matter into living beings, it raises the status of chaos towards the perfection of the one. And as these things are elevated through epistrophe, they become more and more ordered, more and more divine. They eventually obtain souls, and they ascend back towards the one. And the goal of Christianity, Gnosticism, Christian Kabbalah, and the oral tradition of Judaism of Kabbalah is for the human soul to escape the flesh, the corpse of flesh of matter, and elevate itself to the one. Just as Shekinah, Mother Earth, must be elevated to the heavens in the world to come and restore the throne of God so that male and female become one androgynous form, like the androgynous son, Phanes Protogonus, like the androgynous son, Gnosis, Sophia, Jesus and Sophia, knowledge and wisdom. And androgyny and the combining of the opposites is thereby restored to the universe. The Christians adopted this system as their great chain of being. And you can see God at the top sitting on his throne. In his lap is the demiurge, Phanes, Protogonus, Jesus Christ, who then emanates his female aspect, which is Sophia, wisdom. And she is the world soul, the female aspect of the demiurge. Nyx or night, the female aspect of Phanes, Protogonus. And those three, the Trinity, live in the upper realm of heaven. And then they create creation below in the form of the angels, who are the lesser gods in the Greek system, then human beings, animals, plants, and at the base you have chaotic matter, which is the womb of chaos. You can see her at the bottom, and it is the commingling of the light in the darkness of the womb of chaos, which produces creation as the combining of the opposites, like yin and yang. The Greek trinity of the male and female parents giving birth to an androgynous son is reflected in the myth of Adam and Eve and in the Christian myth, where you see the androgynous son, Jesus, depicted between the male and the female. This is also replicated in the much later Sephirotic tree of life of Kabbalah, which was created by the Christian Kabbalist Johann Reuchlin, where you have the male column on the right, the female column on the left, and then the middle androgynous column. Paul was very much a Gnostic, and there are many Gnostic elements in the epistles of Paul and in the Gospel of John. Again, Gnosticism is based upon the Orphic religions, and Platonism and Neoplatonism and Gnosticism form the basis of Kabbalah. And we can see direct analogs and correspondences between all of these belief systems, because at the core they are all one. In the Greek system, we have Uranus, who is Father Heaven, tightly pressed against Gaia, who is Mother Earth, the two forming an androgyne, which is separated by the sun, Kronos, who comes with his sickle to castrate Uranus and creates a space for living beings. In the Gnostic system, this is mirrored by the upper realm of the Pleroma, in which the androgynous gods and the good gods of light, the aeons, live. It is separated by the great abyss of Horos, who tries to prevent the lower beings from entering into the upper realm. There is then the lower realm of chaos, which is Kenoma in the Valentinian system, and it is home to the archons and the demiurge. The exact same separation of heaven and earth is presented in the Kabbalistic system and is symbolized again by the Tetragrammaton, Yod-He Vav-He, which in the Hebrew is read from right to left, Yod-He being the male aspect, Vav-He being on the left, the evil female aspect. Together they form the androgynous Godhead. Yod-He is male, it is Yahweh, it is heaven. Vav-He is female, it is Shekinah, the earth at the bottom of the Sephirotic tree. And the upper three Sephirot are separated by the Great Divide, the abyss, which is difficult to cross when a Kabbalistic adept attempts to lift his soul up into the heavenly realm. He must first cross the abyss and resist all temptation. And then in between these two are the six Sephirot of the Zeir Anpin, which is the androgynous sun. In the Bible, the three most commonly combined aspects of God are wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. and they form the Sephirot on the Kabbalistic Sephirotic tree of Chokhmah, which is wisdom, Binah, which is understanding, and Da'at, which is knowledge. The same Trinity appears in the Gnostic system as Jesus Christ's female aspect, Sophia, who is female and the darkness and the dark womb of chaos, Epinoia, which is the tree of knowledge and the cross, and means insight and is equivalent to Binah and understanding. And then there is Gnosis, which is the male, and Jesus Christ, the serpent, the grapevine on the tree of knowledge, who is knowledge and Deat. So there we have the evolutionary cycle which produced Christian Kabbalah. There was initially the Greek Orphic mystery religions. Plato derived Platonism from that, which became Middle Platonism and Neoplatonism. Judaism and Gnosticism were derived from these Greek beliefs. Orthodox Christianity abandoned Gnosticism and proclaimed that it is a heresy. The oral tradition of Judaism then restored Gnosticism and Neoplatonism in the form of Kabbalah, and then the Christian Kabbalists reunited Christianity with Orphism and with Platonic thought through Kabbalah, and the cycle came full circle, restoring Christianity back to its Orphic Greek roots. In the Gnostic system, there is the metagod Abraxas, whose legs are the serpent of darkness and the serpent of light, representing two messiahs and the two trees of the Garden of Eden, and the male and female aspect of the Trinity, which then become united in the androgynous Son, Jesus Christ. The Christian Kabbalists represented this as an upright pentagram and a downward pointed pentagram. The upward pointed pentagram represents Yeshua, which is what they called Jesus. It is composed of the Hebrew letters Yod He Shin Vav He, representing male and female aspects of Adam. The inverted pentagram is the evil serpent, the Leviathan. Leviathan in Hebrew is spelled Lamed Vav Yod Tav Nun, and is composed of the male aspect of Satan, Samael, and the female aspect of Satan, Lilith. All of this is derived from the Greek belief in the god Phanes Protogonus, the light-bringer, first begotten, who is hatched from the cosmic egg and emits his divine, good, and benevolent light into the dark womb of chaos, where the semen of light mingles in the darkness of the womb of chaos with matter and produces the child of creation. Phanes Protogonus is syncretically replicated by Jesus Christ and Adam Kadmon, and there is a synergism between the evil serpent Jesus and the serpent of light, Adam Kadmon, which perfects and restores creation to the original androgynous state of the Godhead of Yahweh Shekinah, who served as the form that was replicated in Adam before Adam was separated into his male aspect, Adam, and female aspect, Eve, which is why the Bible says that Adam and Eve were created in the image of the gods. Those gods are Yahweh and Shekinah. You can learn more about these subjects in my books, which are available at my website, CJB Books.com. I will put a link to my website in the description below. I especially recommend my books, Beware the World to Come, which delves deeply into the origins of the Judeo-Christian belief in androgyny and androgynous gods. My book, Rise Above the Gods Who Hate Us, demonstrates that all of these beliefs were derived from the Greeks, and I provide an in-depth explanation of those beliefs and the Greek sources for those beliefs. I thoroughly expose the Kabbalistic beliefs related to Jesus Christ and the Gnostic belief that Jesus was Satan in the Garden of Eden, who provided gnosis, knowledge, to Adam and Eve, and returned to again provide that knowledge which allows the sparks of the soul to escape the corpse of flesh and return to the Platonic monad, the One. If you appreciated this presentation, please donate. There is a link for donations in the description below. You can also support my work and educate yourself by buying my books. Again, my website is CJBBooks.com. There will be a link to it in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.